I will say first though, Buzz Lightyear's marketing campaign is incredible.
Right?
It's such a bloody good advertisement.
I like how when he like goes into like the like living room and he sees like the Space Ranger call and he's like, oh, they're trying to contact me, and then he realizes that it's really just like an advertisement for like his toy and like a promotion for him.
Not a flying toy.
No,
It's like,
not a flying toy.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Rewatch podcast. My name is Samuel.
And I'm Jaden.
And this is a podcast where we rewatch classic or current films every week and then decide whether they deserve a rewatch from you. Before we begin, a like on this video would be most appreciated. You can also check out a few of our other videos that we've released on YouTube recently. We've got a Spider-Man video and we've got a Mandalorian video on the latest episode there, so be sure to check those out on our YouTube channel. You can find it by searching The Rewatch. So this week we watched Toy Story, a favorite of some people, but Jaden, it sounds like it's not a favorite of yours. Fill me in on like how many times you've maybe is this movie. Did you grow up with this movie, or when was the last time you saw it? And just give us a bit of backstory as to what you think of the film before watching it this time.
Okay. Well, first of all, when I told you that I've got something to say about this film, it's not completely negative. I don't hate this film. Like, I actually really like this film. I just feel like people give this film a lot of praise, and I feel like at the time it was revolutionary, but at the same time, it doesn't hold up to today's standards, and in a way, that's kind of biased considering that it was the first of its kind and it kind of pioneered the whole animation style in film. But at the same time, I'm just going to say, one of the critiques I had with this film was the story, and a lot of people will probably hate on me for saying that, but I feel like it was a bit basic, and essentially it's toys get lost and they get kidnapped by this evil kid, and then they end up finding their way home, and it's all happy ending. And the story is really nice and happy, and it's an emotional story and you can connect with it. But I feel like as a kid I probably appreciated the film more, and as I've grown up I've established what a good story is, and I feel like in hindsight this probably isn't the best story.
Oh geez, okay, I think there's going to be a bit of a debate today. I think there's going to be a bit of discussion, but I'm all here for it. Obviously, that's what we like to do on the podcast. We like to clash, but obviously clash respectfully. That's what we do here. But so yeah, this is like, I grew up with this movie. Buzz Lightyear was my favorite character for forever, really. It's probably like one of my favorite characters in film, full stop. Probably, up there with Spider-Man, right? And, I was in Buzz Lightyear costumes from the time I was 4. And, I remember going to Disneyland and going on the Buzz Lightyear ride and getting all sorts of toys and stuff like that. So Buzz is a big part of my life, and I really, really love this movie, and we're probably gonna disagree on whether the story has that substance to it, because I personally think it does. But let's get into that later on. So for a brief story overview, so Andy's favorite toy, Woody, is worried that after Andy receives his birthday gift, a new toy called Buzz Lightyear, his importance may get reduced. He thus hatches a plan to eliminate Buzz, which kind of sounds a bit funny, but that is exactly what happens in the film. Probably covers probably the first half of the film at least, anyway.
Yeah.
But characters obviously, it doesn't get much more iconic than Tom Hanks and Tim Allen as Woody and Buzz Lightyear. Do you think their performances held up? And what do you think of their performances as a collective in the film?
Oh no, 100%. I definitely agree that they're probably one of the best duos in film history ever. And that's not the problem I have with the film. Like I said before, the problem I have with the film is the story. But I feel like um, what they created here with Woody and Buzz was just so special.
Mm,
And no, I absolutely adore the friendship that they have. It's just so different and unique. Um, so no, I really like their performances, and I couldn't even pick a favorite out of them because both Tim Allen and um, Tom Hanks were just so good in their roles. Yeah.
mm, yeah, I agree in the sense that like in terms of who gave the best performance, I think they both do a fantastic job for their different characters. The characters are so different, and so they had to bring, different sort of personalities and voice tones to the roles.
Mm.
But yeah, obviously my favorite is Tim Allen as Buzz Lightyear. I think he's hilarious in this movie. I think, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain clip that I'll show you after the podcast, but I'll play it for the viewers later on in the podcast. Because I clipped the moment, and Buzz Lightyear is just hilarious. But at least to me anyway. So yeah, I think I agree. You can't get more iconic than Tom Hanks and Tim Allen
Yeah.
as their respective duo. And I think, obviously, not to get too off track from this movie, but I think that's what Toy Story 4 didn't do as well, because Woody and Buzz were separated for the entire thing, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to give a mention to Don Rickles as Mr. Potato Head. Hilarious, at
Yeah.
least in my
No,
opinion.
no, I liked him in the film as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and also Jim Varney as Slinky Dog.
Yeah.
I think those two voice actors have actually passed away. So, if that is the case, may they rest in peace. But their performances in this film are both
It
respectively
won't be
fantastic
forgotten.
as well.
Mm.
Exactly. Slinky is so funny in that first couple minutes, and Mr. Potato Head has some of the best lines. Save it for the jury, Woody. But yeah, just all sorts of adult jokes sort of come through Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
sort of like
I picked up on a few. Yeah.
yeah, he's sort of like the Shrek of the gang. Like he's like the adult humor injection that the kids
Yeah.
probably aren't really going to pick up on.
Yeah.
So I found that really funny. But shall we dive into it? Shall we discuss all the parts of the story and
Yeah. Let's do it.
and hammer out what we think? So first of all, we've seen sort of a trend in Disney movies, at least. I'm not sure about Pixar movies, but usually nowadays animated movies are not full screen, so they're not like IMAX, if you know what I mean by that. So
Mm-hmm.
like the actual picture has black bars at the top and the bottom, and this movie doesn't, and I don't think the other Toy Story movies do. Maybe Toy Story 4 does, but yeah, so I really just wanted to say, just like it's the starting point, like I really appreciate the full screen because I don't know, like I just appreciate a bigger picture. You get to see more. But did you actually notice that they didn't have the black bars? Because I really don't like the black bars, to be honest. Like, just give me a full IMAX
Well,
shot for the entire thing.
well, obviously, this is kind of going out of like film territory, but I do think they had to sacrifice some of the quality because obviously they've definitely improved in the quality, and like you said, we now have IMAX in theaters, so the quality is definitely going to improve, and I think it was kind of a sacrifice that they had to make to fill the whole screen with the picture, and you can tell that it's not as clear
Mm,
quality as some of Pixar's latest films.
mm, mm,
But honestly, when I'm watching a film, I don't really pay attention to the black bars, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even notice until you picked it up.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I just think like, movies like Joker are shot in a bigger, like have a wider screen. Like there's hardly any black bars in Joker, whereas then if you watch something like Batman Begins, then it's like got the black bars and there's this shorter a frame, like you see less.
Yeah.
So I always like to see more. But so the animation in this movie, obviously the first movie to ever be created via CGI, so computer animated technology. And so obviously before this, we still had animated movies, but those were like, Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland. And, they're sort of like hand drawn
Yeah.
movies that are like storyboards.
Yeah.
So this is the first one, but did you think, it sounds like you didn't think the animation held up, and I sort of, I get your point there. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was really. I'm sure it would have been incredible when it first got released back in 1995, I want to say.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, looking at it in 2020, I mean, there's clear things that kind of I've picked up that it's like, ooh, it's a bit dodgy. Like, Sid's dog kind of looks like an
Yeah.
out of this world creature, and
Yeah.
the humans just kind of look plastic, and the
Oh yeah, the humans, they weren't ready to do humans yet, to
yeah,
be honest.
yeah,
I don't think.
and the
Yeah.
fur and the hair just look weird, and
Yeah.
the shadows don't really kind of work, and
Mm.
then the all
Yeah.
of the textures feel like really flat. Yeah,
Mm.
it's just
Yeah.
little things, but I still enjoy the film nonetheless because you're not really watching it for the animation in the sense.
Yeah, I think Shrek that was released in like 2001, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
this was 6 years before Shrek, and to be honest, I think Shrek's only a slightly better. Like I think for
Oh,
for the time, I think for the time, especially certain shots of like of the close-ups of the characters. Like, sure, I'll admit like the background is poorly rendered, and sometimes it looks like there's textures missing. Like it's
mm,
like when a video game is sort of like half loading, and it's just like it just doesn't look real. So I definitely admit that there are problems with the animation, but for the first one to do it, I think it's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, and we can't criticize the film on that, but I got to disagree with you saying that there's not that much of a difference between Shrek and Toy Story because there's quite a
Mm.
significant difference. I mean, if you look at images of any human in Shrek like Lord Farquaad
Okay, yeah,
versus
that's a fair point. Yeah,
Andy, points they didn't even show Andy's mum. I don't even think we saw Andy's mum because they weren't
yeah.
prepared
Oh,
to do it.
We saw her for like 5 seconds, and her mouth moved, and it was not in time with the dialogue.
Yeah. So
Yeah, no, I see your point there.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. They weren't ready for humans.
yeah,
But in terms of like Woody and Buzz, I think it's probably just as good as like as Lord Farquaad. But Lord Farquaad's a human, so he's got hair and
yeah,
all sorts of other things that these toys that are just plastic are quite easy to render. Well,
yeah.
at least probably now, but back then certainly not. So yeah, I think it's important to recognize that it's the first film to do it, and for it's a pretty awesome
Oh
achievement.
yeah.
Um, you probably wouldn't have the rest of animation as because of this film. Like if this film didn't exist, we might not have you know animation like in Onward that you
Yeah.
can't really tell is real or animation, and
Mm.
perhaps that's too far in Onward. But yeah, it only got better from here. So someone had to do it first,
Mm.
and of course, it makes sense for Pixar to do it. But what did you think of the intro to this movie? Obviously, we get that iconic theme song of "You Got a Friend in Me." We get introduced to Woody and Andy. Obviously, Andy is extremely poorly rendered, um, but yeah, what did you think of that introduction? I think it's really quite nice.
Oh, I said in my show notes that I love the opening to this film, and it's possibly one of the best in animation. And I know I said that for Cars, but I feel like this is just as good. And they're so different that it's hard to compare them. But Cars is more of a dramatic, kind of
Mm,
hype sort of intro, and
yeah,
then this one's more so friendly and tame, and it's not as big. But yeah, you brought up "You've Got a Friend in Me," which I feel like is one of the best movie songs ever written. It's just so good by Randy Newman.
mm,
In general, I feel like it's probably one of Randy Newman's best pieces. Probably alongside his Monsters Inc. song, which I think is just called Monsters Inc. Uh, but yeah, like I said, it's just such a nostalgic opening, and you've got the clouds and the blue sky, and
Iconic.
it's just so good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely, I get nostalgia from that.
Mm.
But I think, to somewhat separate myself from the nostalgia, I think I agree this is one of the best animated openings ever. And definitely, I'd say probably the best piece of music from an animated film. That's a very big statement. Obviously, we've had so many brilliant songs, but this is definitely up there for sure. I
Mm.
mean, You Got a Friend in Me is iconic, and I would say Randy Newman is a bloody genius. Like, how does he? Because he writes the songs, he sings the songs, so that means like,
He also plays the songs.
yeah, so he's writing them, he's performing them, and
Mm.
he's singing them, and that's just crazy. I mean, we talk about Hans Zimmer a lot, but in terms of animated movies, Randy Newman's the man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still doing it as well. I think he did the Toy Story 3 as well, and
He
I'm
did
not
Toy
sure whether
Story 4 as well.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it's awesome.
Mm.
But yeah, so in terms of animated movies, if you want good music, and you're at Pixar, then you're lucky, I guess, because you get Randy Newman.
The absolute
Um,
wizard himself.
exactly,
Mm.
yeah, you got to put him up there with the likes of Hans Zimmer and stuff because it would only be fair. Genius.
You know what I just
And also other great
realized?
songs. Yeah.
This film was released before, like, the Lord of the Rings franchise, and before, massive TV series like Game of Thrones and all of those big things. This is a really old film.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. This is it.
crazy.
It came out before the Phantom Menace, I think.
Yeah.
Certainly the rest of the prequel
Yeah,
trilogy as well.
1999 was The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, so 4 years after we got Phantom Menace, which is just crazy.
4 years before.
Crazy. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. When did you say the Phantom Menace was?
Phantom Menace was 1999. This was 1995.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, Toy Story 4 years before
Yeah.
Phantom Menace. Yeah. Um, Yeah, that's just crazy. And to think of, the CGI that we get in the Phantom Menace and then compare it to the animation in this.
Yeah.
bit, bit of a difference. But obviously it's completely different, completely different playing field.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely it's really interesting to picture. Oh, this was one of the first Pixar movies ever, I think.
It
And
was the
so
first, yeah.
yeah, so crazy, and obviously look at them now. It's quite crazy, but I can't help but notice. Obviously, in those opening credits, there we get three male names that flash up, or maybe it's just two, but I can't help but say that at least two of them have had allegations of misconduct. One of them sexual misconduct. Obviously. But and those two are John Lasseter, who obviously directed the thing.
Oh, yeah,
His
they
exit.
fired him, didn't they?
Yeah, they got rid of him, and then Joss Whedon as well. And we've obviously seen with Justice League, quite a bit of backlash from how he's been treating how he treated his actors on that project. But so you can't help but notice some of the people that have gone on to be cancelled because of things they've done in their careers. But if you can separate the art from the artist, that's what we're going to try and do. But yeah, couldn't help but notice that Joss Whedon, so the director of the Avengers, had something to do with Toy Story, which is a bit weird, but sure. So I will say, Mr. Potato Head, I think he's the king of comedy. I
yeah.
think all of the dialogue in this movie, I think, is really fantastically written. It's full of jokes and it's full of charm that we've talked about before of Pixar movies. They're just so well written, and that dialogue is just there's just so much flavor to it. Whereas nowadays, you just don't get that anymore
Yeah.
because back in these days, they were allowed to be, I wouldn't say edgy, but they were allowed to sort of make jokes that people wouldn't get, and be a bit on the edge sometimes, and push the boundaries in terms of humor and just writing really awesome and substantial dialogue. So we get that in the first sort of 30 seconds with hey Ham, I'm Picasso. I don't get it. And then he says, you uncultured swine.
Yeah,
And just like obviously that's been memed a bit as well. Plenty of good memes in this film, but yeah, so all the dialogue, especially Mr. Potato Head, I wanted to give a shout out to him.
I feel
But
like
did you think the humor in this movie was good?
no, I really liked it. I feel like both Hamm and Mr. Potato Head kind of like uh, jumped off one another and kind of really, worked with each other really good in terms of creating this sort of comedic tone in the film. But like you said, all the dirty jokes, all of those jokes came from Mr. Potato's character. I actually really liked his character in this film. I think he kind of added this uh, this kind of edgy, humor that we have seen in a lot of kid films. And I haven't watched this film in quite some time because I never really wanted to. And I only just picked up on all this stuff. Like the last time I watched this film was just ages ago. It was probably over a decade ago. So yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, I love when Woody tells Slinky, like, I have some bad news, and Slinky's like, bad news,
Yeah.
and he's saying it really loudly. He's like, no, shh, shh, and then he's like, now be happy, and he tells Slinky to be happy, and then Slinky just puts on this hilarious fake laugh. He's like, ah, it's just brilliant. So I really, really love the humor of both Slinky and Mr. Potato Head, because I think they bounce off each other too, because Slinky's like Woody's main advocate, and Mr. Potato Head at one stage,
Yeah, I think I know what you're going to talk about. Yeah.
he takes his lips off his mouth and puts them to his ass and says, like, trying to imitate that Slinky's been kissing Woody's ass, which is quite funny.
Yeah.
Obviously, kids don't really get that. They're like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of this movie, like, I can't really, you can say something's good for so long, but I wanted to really do it justice. So most of my notes have just been like writing down pieces of dialogue from the film, because I just didn't know. Like, I'm like, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. Like, I just didn't want to say it over and over again. But I really like when Woody's calling that meeting, that toy meeting, and everybody, like the gang's all there listening, and he's like, Tuesday night's plastic corrosion meeting was, I think, a big success, which is, it's quite funny to think that these toys are getting together and discussing plastic corrosion, because they're of course plastic, and so they have like these informative things. And I know in Toy Story 2, he says there's another seminar, and it's like what to do if part of you is swallowed. It's just great sort of like world building for these toys. But yeah, what did you think about the things like that? The little nuggets in the dialogue that sort of help build this world and make it, I guess, believable. I guess.
Yeah, I feel like they did a really good job of making these toys feel like they have their own sort of world inside Andy's room. And I feel like for a lot of kids, a lot of kids would have believed that their toys could come to life when they were young watching this film. And, it's just incredible to see the impact that has. I mean, a 1 hour, 20-minute film can create that, and they still can't create anything with a 2.5 hour film. The Rise of Skywalker. But, yeah, I feel like this film had so much potential, and it really lived up to what it aimed out to do, really.
Yeah, and two more quick things. I love when the toys are really anxious that they're going to be replaced by the presents of Andy's birthday party, which really just shows that it's a thing that happens. You get a new toy, you throw out your old ones, or perhaps your parents say you can only have one toy. One's got to go. So these toys are really worried that they're going to be replaced. And I really like when someone says, oh, look, that's a small one, like to one of the presents, because they see the presents
and
coming
then
in
it turns
the
around.
Yeah. And then it turns around and everyone just like, this mass panic just breaks out.
Yeah.
Because it's this huge present, and they're like, oh, it's just really, really funny. It's just, things like that don't necessarily make me laugh, but they just like made me smile. And or I did chuckle a few times. Like I did like genuinely laugh a couple times during this film. Like did any sort of dialogue at any stage in the film really like make you laugh out loud, or even even chuckle, or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I really like this scene with the claw and the little green aliens.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I have been chosen. I go on to a better place.
Who makes the decisions? The claw. I don't know. I really like those little creatures, and then Woody's trying to like escape, and then they're all like pushing him up, and he's like, "You have been chosen." He's like trying to get out.
Yeah. They've sort of got their own little like regime going on there.
Yeah.
It's like their religion is their god is the claw.
Yeah.
It's really funny. Yeah,
No, I like
that's
that.
an iconic scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, speaking of iconic scenes, the Buzz reveal. So the Buzz Lightyear toy gets placed on Woody's bed, and Woody's sort of climbing up, and then we get that shot where we can like see Buzz's feet, and then like Woody's head is like in between them.
Yeah.
And that's just an iconic shot.
That is
and
an
we've
iconic
seen
shot,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that replicated in quite a few other movies, animated and non-animated, I think. But yeah, that, and also how good is the music in that scene as well, with just like the background sort of orchestral, it really like builds up to this reveal of Buzz, and then sort of softens down to more like
more of
just,
a mellow,
really nice theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I really like that. So what was your thought? I think the best scene in the entire film is when Buzz gets there and the toys are sort of being introduced to him. But what were your thoughts on that? Do you think that's the best part of the film? Do you think it was funny or anything like that?
I'd probably have to say either the starting sequence, or the scene with Strange Things, also by Randy Newman. I think that was also a really good scene because it kind of showed Woody's kind of downward spiral and how he's been forgotten, and how Andy's succumbing to change, and he's growing up, he's getting new toys that he likes. But yeah, there's a lot of things in this film I would say that are my favorite, but in particular, the scene with Buzz coming in had a lot of great things about it as well. He's I can fly, and what he's trying to tell him that he can't fly is just a toy. You are a toy. And I can't actually remember if that was from this film. It might have been, but yeah. And then he's like, "Watch me fly," and then that wasn't flying, that was falling with style. And there's so many good like one-liners in this film as well.
Yeah. I really like in that scene. I'll show the clip in a second to our viewers. But there's when Rex is asking Buzz like what else he can do, and he says, well, actually I can fly, and Woody's like, "You're not a real space toy," and Woody just goes on like this rant about how Buzz isn't the real Buzz Lightyear. And if you look at Buzz's facial expressions when Woody is doing that, it is just absolute gold.
Really?
It's just, yeah. I'll send you the clip now, and I'll play it for the viewers right now so they can take a look at it right now.
Oh, Mr. Lightyear, now I'm curious. What does a space ranger actually do?
He's not a space ranger. He doesn't fight evil or shoot lasers or fly.
Excuse me.
Oh, impressive wingspan. Very good.
Oh, what? These are plastic. He can't fly.
They are a beryllium carbonic alloy, and I can fly.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
You can't.
Can.
Can't.
Tell you, I could fly around this room with my eyes closed.
Okay, then, Mr. Lightyear, prove it.
All right, then
Mr.
I will.
Lightyear.
It's just I love that scene because I love seeing Buzz's face. He just makes this ridiculous facial expression. He just can't believe that this sheriff is telling him that he's not the real Buzz Lightyear.
He's so delusional.
Yeah, I love how delusional he is, and you really have to give credit to Tim Allen for that that performance. You know, when he's calling Star Command, he's like, "Why don't they answer?" He's like, he's so he's so adamant and focused on this idea that he is the real Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I must have been awoken from hypersleep."
Yeah.
It's just so funny. It's really quite beautiful, and it's really one of the best parts of the film for me, to be honest. But I don't know. Obviously, we get, and there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Yeah.
And he asks Woody, "Do you people still use fossil fuels, or have you discovered like some crazy like carbonic fusion or something?" It just says like some science fiction jargon. But no, it's really funny. I really love the dialogue in this film. I can sort of talk about all of the different pieces of dialogue all day, to be honest. And just even when Woody's like, "Yes, you are a toy, TOY toy," and he's like, "Excuse me, I think the word you're searching for is space ranger."
Yeah.
The word I'm searching for, I can't say because they're a preschool toy.
Yeah.
And Potato Head's like getting kind of tense, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just brilliant. I mean, I love that scene. I think it is the best scene probably in the entire franchise, I would say, perhaps. But anyway, perhaps a discussion for when we get onto the other ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Tim Allen's performance and Buzz as a character, I love them. I love the two, and how Tim Allen's performance really gets across that delusional aspect of the character, because it's quite important to the story actually, as well. And I don't know if you noticed this, if you've seen Toy Story 4, but Bo Peep says to Buzz in Toy Story 4, she refers to him as her moving buddy, and that's a callback that's a callback to this movie, because when Buzz does his little flying stunt, Bo Peep says, "I found my moving buddy."
Yeah, I've chosen mine. Yeah. No, I picked up on that, but I didn't realize it was in the 4th installment.
Yeah, so then it shows that Bo Peep actually ditched Woody for Buzz as a moving buddy.
That's funny.
Which is quite funny, yeah. Because obviously they move between Toy Story 1 and 2, but it's quite funny. And yeah, you've already touched on Strange Things, and again, a brilliant song. And I wanted to say that I think those 3 songs that we get, so it's You Got a Friend in Me, Strange Things, and I Won't Go Sailing No More. And those 3 songs are like musicals, if you know what I mean. So like they're songs that have lyrics that directly relate to how the character's feeling.
Yeah.
And in musicals, the songs are so important because they're essentially exposition. They're telling the audience how this character's feeling and what they're going through, and these songs entirely, they do that.
They encapsulate that really well. Yeah.
And I feel like this film wouldn't have worked as a musical, for sure. But having that song and having it directly relate to the character was really, really well done. Obviously, beautiful music as well. I wanted to ask you, at this stage of the film, do you feel sorry for Woody at any stage? Do you feel like, because I feel like towards when we get into like halfway of the film, we think Woody's, a bit of an idiot. We don't really like him that much.
Mm-hmm.
But I was wondering if you felt any sort of like attachment to him, or maybe like you felt sorry for him at any stage in the film, like before the murder plot, essentially. Maybe you felt like the murder plot was justified or anything like that.
The murder plot was a bit strange of Woody to do. Like I said before, I do think that the scene where he's like being forgotten, I think that was done really well. And at that point, it was quite emotional with Randy Newman's music in the background, and I do think I resonated with that quite well.
Yeah, I never really liked Woody, to be honest. As a kid, I was always a fan of Buzz Lightyear. I mean, obviously, like, he's one of the main characters, so you like him to a certain extent. But I was never really, hoping anything for Woody. Like, I was always on Buzz's side.
He was a Buzz
fan,
what I mean?
Yeah. So, but now, I mean, still, obviously Woody has an arc in this film, and so does Buzz, and their arcs like really relate to each other. In fact, they're almost the opposite of each other.
Yeah.
And so I think, as an older child, I guess, watching this film and really taking in like the actual story elements and stuff, I can, I definitely feel a lot more for Woody. But like, I mean, he tries to get Buzz stuck down a ledge, and essentially ends up unintentionally, accidentally, almost murdering him. Which is a bit too far, but obviously, he's jealous, and I think that's an attribute that every person can relate to. He had everything, and I think one of the songs, I think "Strange Things," the song is one of the lyrics is like, I had respect, I was loved, but not anymore, or something like that.
Yeah.
So Woody sort of had it all, and then Buzz came along and sort of destroyed his life. So you can sort of like empathize with him, but still, not really.
I'd never really understood his murder plot. Like, he could have just like pushed Buzz off the edge, right? But instead he grabs the RC car and then like tries to ram him over the edge. Like, I just don't really get it. Like,
it's pretty weird as well, because Woody uses a witness to commit his own murder plot. Pretty weird. Like he uses the RC car, who can talk, to try and push Buzz off the edge. He's not really that smart.
Can the RC car talk there?
Well, he doesn't talk. He sort of makes like noises, like Chewbacca noises that we can't hear, but Potato Head can understand him for some reason.
Okay.
So the audience can't.
And we all know Potato Head has a massive vendetta against Woody in this film.
It's so funny. It's like, oh, so what if Andy starts playing with me, you're gonna throw me off the ledge too?
Yeah.
And he's like, save it for the jury, Woody. It's just Potato Head's got a vendetta, for sure. Potato Head's an angry man.
He is a bit.
He don't want to cross Potato Head.
No.
He definitely assumes the worst of people, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But shortly after the murder plot, obviously we get the iconic, "You are a toy" scene. So what were your thoughts on there? Obviously quite a pivotal moment in the film, because I mean, we've sort of like reached a limit in terms of Woody's sort of angst for Buzz Lightyear. He's just like completely done with him, and they sort of have a fight as well. Buzz knows that Woody tried to kill him, and he says, "Revenge is not an ideal we promote on my planet." And Woody's like, "Oh, good." And Buzz is like, "But we're not on my planet."
Yeah. No, I think that was quite clever, and the whole. I do think that Tom Hanks' delivery of that line was quite impactful. I mean, "You are a toy," and how he like pronounces toy. It sounds stupid when I'm saying it, but if you know what I'm saying, then you'll understand it. No, I do think that was quite a significant scene in this film, and how Buzz eventually comes to realize that he is just this plastic figure made in Taiwan.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's such a depressing scene. But I want to read out what an exposition line of Buzz's, and you can see if it relates to any sort of pop culture thing that we like. So Buzz says, "Right now, poised at the edge of the galaxy, the evil Emperor Zurg has secretly been building a weapon with a destructive capacity to wipe out an entire planet. I alone have information which reveals this weapon's only weakness."
That's funny. Yeah.
It's like, "You are a toy."
Yeah. Well, what is with the Toy Story films, and just calling back to Star Wars? Obviously, this is in reference to A New Hope, where the Emperor is building the Death Star, which can destroy planets such as Alderaan, and Luke Skywalker has the Death Star, plans to infiltrate it and blow it up. I kind of like the Star Wars references in these films.
Because Star Wars would have just come out, really, so it's definitely like, and we see a lot in Toy Story 2 as well.
You see just come out, but it was a
fair bit. True. Yeah, I guess it was, actually. And then obviously the prequels would have happened as well, which would have brought it all back up. And obviously Toy Story 2 has probably 10 times the amount of Star Wars references.
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah, I love you are a sad, strange little man. You have my pity. Farewell. And he just turns around and he's like, good riddance, you loony. And so we see Buzz and Woody, they're going their separate ways. But no, that's not how the story goes. Woody draws Buzz back. Just every single scene, to be honest, is, Woody having this like over aggressive and jealous, he's just an explosion of jealousy.
Yeah.
And Buzz Lightyear was just like this cool, calm, and collected, but extremely delusional man. Or toy, I should say.
Toy. You are a toy.
Toy. Toy. And then obviously we get the claw, which you've
The
spoken
claw.
about. The claw. So funny. And Woody's like, the spaceship's got hyperactive hyperdrive. And Buzz is like, obviously hyperdrive is a reference to Star Wars again, I think.
Yeah.
Hyperdrive's appeared in like Star Trek, I know, as well. But I think it probably came from Star Wars first.
Yeah, well, the hyperdrive is what, allows the Millennium Falcon to jump into hyperspace. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like Empire Strikes Back is like half of it is trying to fix the hyperdrive, I think, because they can't escape. But yeah, no, awesome to see those Star Wars references. What did you think? Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say something before we just move on and you kind of brush over references in this film. Did you pick up on any Easter eggs that have appeared in later Pixar films or anything?
Well, obviously we have the Pizza Planet truck in this.
Did you find it? Tell me you
yes,
found it.
I found it.
It was right in front of your eyes, and if you missed it...
I mean, considering the two main characters get in it, I think if I missed it, there would have been serious concerns.
Yeah.
But no, I was glad to see it this time, and also glad to see it parked at a Dynaco a gas station, which we referenced in our Cars podcast.
Yeah.
The color palette of the Dynaco gas station is green, so they definitely changed that up.
Green and red, I think it was.
Cars. Yeah, so not a very nice color to have on a car, I guess, green and red. But I mean, Chick Hicks probably would disagree.
Chick Hicks is furious right now.
So yeah, really, really cool to see how they use different parts of different movies in Pixar movies. But apart from the Toy Story movies, I don't see this Pizza Planet truck anywhere. I need to start looking for it.
You need to start looking. Obviously, this was the first film that it got, that it was released in, and this is where it started the whole craze of the Pizza Planet truck in every Pixar film, apart from The Incredibles, I think. But yeah, we also see the Luxo Ball, which first appeared in a animated short by Pixar prior to the release of Toy Story, and that's obviously that iconic ball that's yellow, blue, and has the red star on it. We see that as one of the kids' presents when he goes to Andy's party. So that's also in the film. And I think I also picked up on one more, a few more actually. So we also get A113, and if you don't know what A113 is, it's kind of similar to the Pizza Planet truck in a way. Basically, just to dumb it down for all of our listeners, and that sounds bad, but to simplify it, A113 is the class where all of the Pixar animators kind of learnt how to animate in when they went to uni. That was the class number. And it's appeared in every Pixar film. You see it in WALL-E, and you see it in this film on Andy's mum's license plate on her car. So that's the license plate number. That's just another thing that I picked up on. And then the last thing's not really an Easter egg, but we also get the Wilhelm scream in this film. And if you know what the Wilhelm scream is, we'll insert it here if we remember it. That appears when, I think it was maybe Woody no, it wasn't Woody. It was when
Buzz fell out
of the window, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, funny. No, always good to see that. That pops up everywhere in in all sorts of movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, so where was the origin of that, by the way?
It was in
where did
some
that first?
Western film. It's
Okay.
really old.
Yeah, it must be just like a film legend, just a film Easter egg. Because I remember it being in The Force Awakens as well. I think it's in all sorts of movies. But yeah, so cool to see that. I guess we'll sort of jump ahead to the final act of the film. So when the toys when Buzz and Woody get taken to Sid's house.
Yeah.
Because then I think when they get taken there, it's when they sort of really their characters sort of start to change and go through their arcs, and they sort of start to realize different things. Obviously, let's touch on Buzz for a bit. Just want to say his line where when Sid's like tearing into his sister's toy and like ripping her head off and stuff. Buzz is like, I don't believe that man has ever gone to medical school. And that's one of the lines that really gets me. Just Buzz is just so delusional, and he thinks everything should be done a certain way, and he's questioning this man's medical integrity. Which is just so funny. And Woody's having a fit essentially. He's like chattering. He's in so much fear he's shaking, and the animation looks like he's having a fit. Like, it looks like a video game that's about to crash. Like the character's just like moving up and down.
Yeah, it's really
like, janky. Like having a spaz.
Yeah.
This like I didn't notice that when I watched it previously, but watching it this time, I'm like, what on earth is happening to Woody? But I mean, limitation of the animation, I guess. Yeah, for sure. So I guess, what was your thought on Buzz Lightyear finding out that he's not an actual Buzz Lightyear? He's a toy. And we see the advertisement for Al's Toy Barn, which comes into the second film. I will say first though, Buzz Lightyear's marketing campaign is incredible.
Right?
It's such a bloody good advertisement.
I like how when he like goes into like the like living room and he sees like the Space Ranger call, and he's like, oh, they're trying to contact me, and then he realizes that it's really just like an advertisement for like his toy and like a promotion for him.
Not a flying toy.
No,
it's like,
not a flying toy. That really got me.
Oh no, it's so sad. Oh, and he realizes that he's sort of like, he hasn't really accepted the fact that he's not the real Buzz Lightyear. He thinks he still is, but he's been challenged by this advert. So he goes up onto the rail and he jumps off it. With the song "I Won't Go Sailing No More."
He's falling in style.
Yes, and he really does fall, but not really with style. I will say, as a kid, every time he did that, I was always hoping that he'd make it this time. Like, I was hoping for a different ending of the. But no, every single time he fell quite a distance, by the way.
Oh, that has to be like 4 meters high.
Yeah. He's lucky to escape with just a broken arm.
Not even a broken arm, just an arm that fell off. Yeah.
Yeah, like he landed like face down as well. Like surely his helmet would smash, and that toy's not surviving that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But such a depressing scene, and then obviously we get like the shot of above him, and he's just like lying there with his arm like dislocated from his body. Like, it's quite gruesome to say, but it's not really. Like, it's just a toy. But but we've become attached to this character. At least I have anyway. So it's always quite a sad scene. But what follows is truly hilarious. I don't know what your thoughts are on Mrs. Nesbit.
Mrs. Nesbit, bro.
When Buzz gets drunk on tea. He has too much tea, and he's like, I can't even fly through the window. It's just, and then Woody finds him, and he's like, I think you've had too much tea today. And then Buzz is still going on this, he's still spiraling into depression, and Woody just slaps him, and then Buzz just sort of has like this realization, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm just a little depressed, that's all. And then obviously he has a bit of a fit again. But one of the lines that really gets me, like really, really makes me laugh, is when Buzz is going, "Years of academy training wasted." And like Woody sort of like pulling him along, and he's like half dragging himself along. He's just so depressed. He can't believe that he can't fly.
Yeah.
It's just so funny.
Not
So
a
sad.
flying toy.
Not a flying toy. So funny. But yeah, so you said at the start, like, you think the story, I think from what you said, like, you think the story's a bit shallow. Is that what your point is?
I mean, I'm just comparing it to other films we've received from Pixar, and I'm not going to spoil anything until I give my final take, and I'll explain it more. But no, I feel like the story, in its basis and in its foundation, was probably really safe, and how, like I said before, they get lost and then they basically get found again. I mean, if you compare it to other films in the Toy Story franchise, like Toy Story 4, and I know that you'll probably disagree with this because you probably prefer Toy Story over Toy Story 4. And I think one thing you can agree with me on is that Toy Story 4 introduced more characters that had more plot lines colliding, and different places, different scenes, different actions, and it was just more complicated. But I feel like this one was just in one place, which was Andy's bedroom, and they get lost and they get found, and I feel like that was kind of basic. But yeah, by no means. I mean, it was Pixar's first film, so they couldn't really compare it to any other, animated films because it was the first one of its kind. So, in that sense, if you were watching this film back in 1995, it probably would have blown your mind. But in 2020, it probably doesn't hold up to what you received today.
Okay, well, in terms of the argument that Toy Story 4 is more substantial, I think I agree. Like, obviously, in Toy Story, even in Toy Story 3, is probably the best example, is we get more backstory of the villain, and we get all these different characters that have different sort of backstories and personalities, and they're more woven into the plot, whereas this is sort of just like a Buzz and Woody adventure, right? So I agree, it is more simplistic. However, I think the arcs that exist between Buzz and Woody there, so obviously Buzz starts the film thinking he is, the best thing in the world. He's the Buzz Lightyear. He's the Buzz Lightyear. He's the coolest space ranger. He needs to get back to save the universe, right? He's got a big mission ahead of him, all right? He's got bigger fish to fry than being in this room that he doesn't know where he is. Whereas Woody is this character that's been loved dearly, and then this new toy's come in and wrecked his life. But even worse, that toy can't even recognize the fact that he's taken Woody's spot and dethroned Woody as Andy's favorite toy. And so there we have Buzz doesn't want anything to do with being Andy's favorite toy. And Woody is like, "Are you kidding me? You're Andy's favorite toy. How could you want anything else?" So that's where they start. And obviously they both hate each other in the middle, and they have like a fight, and then they sort of learn to work together to survive at Sid's room. But I think the scene that really makes this film as good as it is for me is when Buzz is strapped to the rockets and Woody's underneath that crate. And it's sort of like the all is lost moment. Like, Buzz is going to get blown up and Woody's going to get blown up the day after or whatever. And then Woody sort of teaches Buzz, because obviously Buzz is still having a meltdown. Like, his world is crashing down around him because he's not the Buzz Lightyear and he has no purpose anymore. At least he thinks so anyway. And Woody tells him that, how could you be so depressed? Like, you have the best purpose in the world, and that's to be there for Andy, and you're his favorite toy, and you're the coolest toy. And Buzz is sort of like, sort of realizing that, being there for Andy is probably more important than thinking or being a space ranger or whatever. So you have almost, I want to call it like a reverse arc of the two of them. Like they start on either side and then they come together, but like they end up opposite. So like Buzz is like starts the film thinking he's not a toy, and by the end he's thinking, I'm a toy, that's important, I need to get back to Andy. And Woody starts the film thinking Buzz is taking my spot, I'm the best thing for Andy, I want to be number one. And then he realizes that, you know, there are things more important than being number one. I need to make sure Buzz is there for Andy because that's the best I can do for Andy. And so they sort of have like a reverse arc, and they teach each other that they both have different purposes. And whereas like I think Toy Story 3 and maybe Toy Story 4 as well, they have better character development in other characters. But in terms of Woody and Buzz, who I think is, you know, at least to me, Toy Story is Woody and Buzz. I don't really care. Well, sure, I love everybody else, right? I want to say that. But Toy Story for me has always been Woody and Buzz and how they interact and, you know, what they go through and, you know, what they learn and stuff. So
Yeah, and
for me, I think this has the most substance for them.
yeah, I was gonna say, you know, my negative with this film is the story, and I feel like what you're explaining is that it more so falls under character development and you know, character not synchronization, character chemistry and how characters interact with one another. And I think what I was basically taken away from this film, probably my negative, was that it felt a bit basic when you remove all of the characters. You know, it's kind of how we had the conversation of, you know, God of War at its essential premise is that, you know, they're just trying to find Faye on some mountain and, you know, just
they're trying to get to it. They're just climbing a mountain, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly, right. And for the time it was released, it was probably mind blowing, like I said, and it's a good film. I really love this film. And you'll see when I come to my rating, and that's probably why Toy Story 3 is probably my favorite Toy Story film, is that we get a good story and we get really good character development as well. You know, I think Lotso Bear is probably one of the best characters in Toy Story, and you can hate on me all you want there, but I really think that his character was just it was so emotional, and it just felt really, you know, you felt a connection to him. And, you know, when something when we get his backstory and we learn what happened to him, you connect with him. And I do think that all of the Toy Story films do that really well, and that's probably what the Toy Story films are about, is how they interact and the characters in them, not really the story. And I think Pixar's learned that over the years, how they've, you know, made films that kind of revolve around a story as much as you know, give emotional depth to their characters. And for Toy Story being the first one, I'm not gonna, you know, just absolutely smash them on it, but it's just one of the things I picked up on.
Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned character development there, and that's the thing that I really like in this film in terms of Woody and Buzz. Obviously, at the start of the film, they, you know, Woody hates Buzz, but Buzz doesn't hate Woody. In the middle of the film, they hate each other. And then at the end of the film, Woody has a chance to get in Andy's car, but Buzz is stuck between the fence.
Yeah.
And he can't get through. And then Woody jumps off Andy's car and goes back to save him, which just shows character development.
Yeah.
So take note, Disney Star Wars. And also we see Woody thinks he's going to die because the dog's like biting his foot. And then Buzz jumps on the dog. And also character development. So we get like two instances where, you know, Woody has gone to save Buzz, and then Buzz has gone to save Woody. And obviously, I think the whole Toy Story, you know, the most important thing for me is the relationship between the two there. And I think it was really good to, you know, see how far they've come. You know, 40 minutes ago they were trying to kill each other, and now they're trying to save each other, putting each other in harm's way to save the other. And we also get probably the last thing I'll touch on before we sort of wrap up, but when Buzz is falling with style, right? When the rocket goes up and they're flying along, Woody says, "Buzz, you're flying." And that's again, you know, changing character, because Woody at the start is saying, "You can't fly." And now he's got so much faith in Buzz that he really thinks that Buzz is flying.
Yeah.
and then Buzz says, who at the start of the film was saying, "Oh, I can fly." He then says to Woody, "Oh, this isn't flying. This is falling with style." And I was just thinking about the Gordon Ramsay meme, where it's like, finally some good effing character development.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's the opposite. You know, at the start of the film, these two characters were saying the opposite. You know, it just shows how far they've come, and I really love those three examples of like we've gone on a journey that actually means something to the characters. It's not just like an adventure film, like we need to go get something or return someone to a place or get an object or, you know, whatever. So that works for me. But anything else that you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, just a small few things. We got another Star Wars reference when Sid is torturing Buzz and Woody. You know, he's like, where is the rebel base? And a survivor, where's the rebel base? Tell me now. Yeah, obviously another callback to Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the carpet in Sid's house was the one from The Shining. If you've watched The Shining, you'll know what I'm talking about.
I haven't yet.
I know you haven't. You need to watch the goddamn film.
Yeah, I need to.
You'll really like it. But I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah, and then, you know, the ending, I was just going to say, the ending was really good with the whole RC car sort of chase sequence and then, you know, falling with style.
Yeah.
And when they land in the car, I'm not sure if you remember. No, it wasn't when they landed in the car. It was when they were getting dragged behind the car, and Slinky's kind of holding onto the RC, and then they're kind of like coming around the car, and then the baby looks back in the rear view mirror, in the side mirror, sorry, and she sees them. I'm not sure if you...
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, Hakuna Matata gets a short little snippet in this film,
Yeah, little reference there.
Yeah.
You touched on Sid there, which reminds me, I think the only bad thing for me is, I think, and the only like reasonable argument against why this film might be not perfect is that Sid's a very one-dimensional character or two-dimensional character. Like he's very simple, isn't he? He's a very simple villain.
Yeah.
And I think Toy Story 3 definitely does the villain better. But for me, I think, you know, having a ridiculous child like this, who's obviously not mentally well, is quite fitting. I mean, you need a villain. We've seen when animated movies don't have a villain, they're usually rubbish. So Sid works for me, but he doesn't work for a lot of other people, and I respect that view that he's not. I think he's not as, you know, as explored.
He doesn't compare to Lotso Bear, let's just say that.
Yeah, for sure. So if you don't have anything else to add, we'll quickly touch on the music.
Let's do the music.
Yeah, so obviously the music in this is phenomenal, probably one of the best animated soundtracks of all time. You've Got a Friend in Me by Randy Newman is going in the Rewatch playlist. I think there's no sort of...
No, I don't have anything to say about that, no.
Yeah, and I put Strange Things in over I Will Go Sailing No More.
I agree with that as well, yeah.
Yeah, because I think Strange Things is better, is a better song. Yeah. But I Will Go Sailing No More is also fantastic song for the moment in the movie that it's referring to. And obviously Randy Newman, you're a wizard.
Yeah.
So with that said, do you want to give your final thoughts and a tier ranking?
Yeah, okay. So overall, I just wanted to say first, I think I enjoyed Monsters, Inc. a tiny bit more over Toy Story. I don't know, I feel like I've always just really enjoyed Monsters, Inc. more, and I remember more of it, so I watched it more as a child. But we're not watching Monsters, Inc., so I won't talk too much about that. And I feel like this film kind of earns nostalgic points to me as I watched it when I was a kid, and I don't want to rate the film on that because that's really subjective. But yeah, like I've said, I really enjoyed a lot of things in this film. It was just the story that I felt was a bit, it fell a bit short. And like I said before, I like the music in this film. Randy Newman has never disappointed me before, kind of like a John Williams and Hans Zimmer situation. The animation definitely doesn't live up to today's standards, and I feel like that's just a given. I mean, if you look at how far they've come, they've definitely improved. And once again, I'm not going to rate the film on that because you have to kind of take into account when it released. and the characters' relationships in the film. I feel like Toy Story, at its simplified state, is building these relationships between characters and how they interact, and that's what I've always liked from the Toy Story films. I'm sure you're the same. If you're going to watch an animated film, you're probably going to watch it because of the characters and how well they perform, and how well the performances were by Tom Hanks and Tim Allen. I mean, they did great jobs. And yeah, so you're probably going to hate me for this, but I did like Monsters Inc. more, and I'm going to give it the same ranking as an A-. And that's only because I'm taking into account all of the other Toy Story films, and I've already kind of planned out what I'm going to rate them. And I feel like some of those films I can't justify giving an A+, so I have to give like a bit of wiggle room to put in this sort of middle rating. Yeah.
Interesting. No, fair enough. I agree with all of your points there. I think this is the most simple Toy Story movie, but I think it probably had to be because of the animation and also the runtime. This is a very short movie, so they only had an hour and 20 minutes to work with.
Yeah.
But I feel like this film didn't need to be any longer for the story it was trying to tell.
No, yeah.
So yeah, obviously the animation doesn't really hold up as much as I would have liked it to, but obviously that's that's not an issue on rating the film now. For me, what I wanted when I was rating this film, I was thinking, music, dialogue, character development, and overall story. And, I was thinking about the other animation movies. I gave Cars an A, and I really think Cars deserves an A.
Mm-hmm.
And this film has better dialogue. It has better music. It has some of the best music in animation. To me, it has some of the best dialogue and humor. And also, I think it has some of the best character development of Woody and Buzz in any Toy Story movie.
Yeah.
I think it's short, so it's like short and sweet. It gets through what it needs to get through. There's no filler. I love all of the side characters are really well written. Even ones like Bo Peep, they all have their different sort of personality, bringing that to the table. And I think that scene where Woody finds Buzz is some of the best dialogue and performances in an animation movie ever. I think this is one of the best animated movies of all time. I think for me, it's better than Monsters Inc. And also for me, I think it's better than Cars by a comfortable margin. And I haven't given an A+ on this podcast yet, but I think it's only fitting that my first A+ goes to Toy Story. So I'm going to give Toy Story an A+, which is higher than everything else I've rated.
Wow.
But obviously, I don't think you can compare this to something like Inception. It's a completely different ball game. But in terms of animated movies, I think this is better than Into the Spider-Verse. I think it's better than Cars, Monsters Inc., lots of other really good animated movies. So, but obviously I recognize I have a bias because I grew up with this movie, lots of nostalgia coming. But watching it as objectively as I can, I think there's the dialogue. The dialogue does it for me. It's full of humor. It's full of heart. And I love this movie and absolutely everything in it. I even love Sid, who's probably not the most three-dimensional villain, out there. So yeah, I had a blast watching this movie again, and it won't be the last time I watch it, that's for sure. Yeah. So an A+, perfect rating. I don't think there's nothing in this movie that I really change too much, to be honest. I like it just the way it is. But I do recognize that, comparing it to Toy Story 3 has done better things. But in terms of, could they have made Toy Story 3 in 1995? Probably not.
No.
Especially considering how many humans are in that story as well. But yeah, so A+ for me. Toy Story is one of the best, maybe the best animated movie of all time, in my opinion.
Okay.
And so yeah, but no, it was fun to discuss this movie. Obviously, I love this movie very much. Yeah, no, it's a great movie, isn't it?
No, I really enjoyed rewatching this film. I think it was kind of one of those films that you sit down and you kind of just embrace it and just kind of sit in your bed at night time and have a great that sounds bad, but it's a good film to just watch on like a night, and
Yeah.
you're not doing anything.
Yeah, it's a good time, and it's not too offensively long as well.
No,
Like,
yeah.
you know, it's not like a 3-hour bloody Martin Scorsese movie, you know? So,
Essentially, the time we've been talking about the film is the runtime. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And whereas, and which shows, you know, there is enough substance to this movie to, you know, to get it going.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just a shallow adventure story, at least in my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah. I beg to differ, but
yeah, that's okay. So I'm happy to leave it there.
Yeah.
Next week, we won't be doing a podcast, but the week after, I feel like perhaps we'll come back with a bang. Maybe we'll do the next Star Wars movie. Maybe we'll get a guest on, perhaps.
yeah, who knows what we'll do.
And yeah, so stay tuned for that. In 2 weeks' time. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram, you can do so at the Rewatch Pod. I'll upload the funny link of Buzz or the funny video of Buzz to our Instagram account, so it'll be on there right now if you want to go and check it out.
Sweet.
And if you'd like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, just search the Rewatch on YouTube. Quite a cool range of videos coming out. Obviously going through The Mandalorian, so be sure to check that out.
Yeah.
That's my alarm for work. I got to go. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.
See ya.